Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading Srimad-Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 18, verses 35 and 36. Krishna Gate Bhagavati
Krishna Gate Bhagavati
Shastar Yutpatagaminam
Shastari Utapatagaminam
Tadbhinna Setun Adyaham
Tadvina Setun Adyaham
Shasmi Pashyatame Balam
Shasmi Pasyata Me Balam
Krishna Gate Bhagavati
Krishna Gate Bhagavati
Shastar Yutpatagaminam
Shastariya Tupati Gaminam
Tadbhinna Setun Adyaham
Tadvinha Setunidaham
Shasmi Pashyatame Balam
Shasmi Pasyata Me Balam
Krishna Gate Bhagavati
Krishna Gate Bhagavati
Shastar Yutpatagaminam
Shastari Utpatagaminam
Tadbhinna Setun Adyaham
Tad Advina Setun Adyaham
Shasmi Pashyatame Balam.
Shasmi Pasyata Me Balam.
Word for word translation. Krishna, Lord Krishna,
Lord Krishna,
Gate,
Gate,
having departed from this world,
having departed from this world,
Bhagavati,
Bhagavati,
the personality of Godhead,
personality of Godhead,
Shastari,
Shastari,
the supreme ruler,
the supreme ruler,
Utpatagaminam,
Upatagaminam,
of those who are upstarts,
of those who are upstarts,
Tat Bhinna,
Tatvina,
being separated,
being separated,
Setun,
Setu,
the protector,
the protector,
Adya,
Adya,
today,
today,
Aham,
Aham,
myself,
myself,
Shasmi,
Shasmi,
shall punish,
shall punish,
Pashyata,
Pashyata,
just see,
just see,
may,
may,
my,
my,
balam,
Balam,
prowess.
prowess.
Translation. After the departure of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead and supreme ruler of everyone, these upstarts have flourished, our protector being gone. Therefore, I myself shall take up this matter and punish them. Just witness my power. Purport. The inexperienced Brahmana, puffed up by a little Brahma Tejas, became influenced by the spell of Kali Yuga. Maharaja Pariksit gave license to Kali to live in 4 places, as mentioned here and before, but by his very expert government, the personality of Kali could hardly find the places allotted him. The personality of Kali Yuga, therefore, was seeking the opportunity to establish authority, and by the grace of the Lord he found a hole in the puffed-up, inexperienced son of a Brahmana. The little Brahmana wanted to show his prowess in destruction, and he had the audacity to punish such a great king as Maharaja Pariksit. He wanted to take the place of Lord Krishna after his departure. These are the principal signs of upstarts who want to take the place of Sri Krishna under the influence of the age of Kali. An upstart with a little power wants to become an incarnation of the Lord. There are many false incarnations after the departure of Lord Krishna from the face of the globe, and they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. In other words, the personality of Kali got the opportunity to reign through this son of a Brahmana, Śṛṅgi. And then text 36, Ityuktva Rosha Tam Raksho Vayasan Rishi Balakaha Kaushikyapa Upasprishya Vag Vajram Visasarjaha The son of the Rishi, his eyes red hot with anger, touched the water of the river Kaushika while speaking to his playmates and discharged the following thunderbolt of words. Purport. The circumstances under which Maharaja Pariksit was cursed were simply childish, as it appears from this verse. Śṛṅgi was showing his impudency amongst his playmates, who were innocent. Any sane man would have prevented him from doing such great harm to all human society. By killing a king like Maharaja Pariksit, just to make a show of acquired brahminical power, the inexperienced son of a brahmana committed a great mistake. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tardine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Read the translations again. After the departure of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead and supreme ruler of everyone, these upstarts have flourished, our protector being gone. Therefore, I myself shall take up this matter and punish them. Just witness my power. The son of the Rishi, his eyes red hot with anger, touched the water of the river Kaushika while speaking to his playmates and discharged the following thunderbolt of words. So, it is practically the definition of material life that we overestimate ourselves. This is the very root of our material condition as conditioned souls. We think that we are capable of being the enjoyers. We think ourselves capable of being the proprietors. We think ourselves capable of being the benefactors of this world. But this is a diseased condition, as Lord Chaitanya taught to Srila Sanatana Goswami, says that the condition of the conditioned living entity within the material world is that we think ourselves to be competitors to Krishna, that rather than accepting and embracing the fact that Krishna is the principal enjoyer, as my Gurudev termed it, the principal enjoyer, and us as secondary enjoyers, in that by discharging devotional service unto the principal enjoyer, then we also derive great satisfaction from this. Instead, the conditioned souls think that actually I'm going to be the principal enjoyer, I'm going to be the independent enjoyer and the independent proprietor and the independent benefactor of the world. And practically speaking, this causes so many problems for the conditioned souls. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. This means that Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities. Krishna is the controller of all living entities and of all planets, and the proprietor of them. And he is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He is the most intimate well-wisher and friend and benefactor of all living entities. And what does Krishna say about someone who understands these points and who embraces these points? He says Gyatva Mam Shantim Richiti. Someone who is knowledgeable in this way about Krishna, such a person attains peace. They attain Shanti. Right, this is something that people desire very much in this world. Go to yoga studio, Shanti, Shanti. But are they understanding that Krishna is the enjoyer and the proprietor and the benefactor of everyone? No. So therefore, instead of Gyatva Mam Shantim Richiti, practically we experience that it's Na Gyatva Mam Na Shantim Richiti, that by not knowing this, the living entities fail to derive satisfaction in life. And we also consider ourselves as an extension of these principles, the knower, and we consider ourselves the judge of others, and thus we have this tendency to criticize others. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita as well that the jiva is the kshetragya, we are the knower of the field of our activities, whereas Krishna is sarvakshetragya. He is the knower of all the fields of activities. He knows what is going on everywhere, at all times, all places. He very intimately knows the hearts of every single living entity. He knows all of our proclivities, all of our past actions, all of our qualities, all of our desires, and he also knows our potential as his servant. And we conditioned souls, so much of our knowledge is covered over by the limitations of ourselves as being only kshetragya versus sarvakshetragya. We can't fully understand the motivations or activities or thoughts of any other living entity besides ourselves. And actually, even when it comes to ourselves, we can see practically that it's not easy for us. Practically, it's impossible. According to the principles of modern psychology, they would say that it's impossible actually for an individual to fully and clearly understand their own cognitive processes, because we are limited in our perception. We are not able to have an awareness of all the things going on in our body, all of the firings of neurons in our brain, and what to speak of understanding the more subtle motions of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Just over this lifetime, what to speak of over the countless lifetimes that we have been in this material world. But despite these shortcomings of our knowledge about ourselves and others, somehow we find it within ourselves that we wish to criticize and judge others. I can say in myself also, I have the tendency to criticize and judge others. And so preparing this class took a lot of introspection and thought. I literally just sat thinking about what to say for an hour before I started making any notes. Because, yes, this is something that all of us, especially me, have the tendency to struggle with. And so why is it that we have this tendency to wish to judge others, to wish to have control over others? It is because we have a shortcoming in ourselves. If we were actually self-satisfied, if we actually had pure spiritual vision, if we were actually situated in spiritual consciousness, then while we would and may express compassion towards others, we would not have the tendency to unnecessarily judge and criticize others. And we can see this again in the words of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18. Krishna talks about someone who is actually self-satisfied and situated in pure spiritual knowledge. Krishna says that the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater even. So, you know, that's a pretty extreme level of equal vision. But the humble sage actually is situated in this. Why? Because, as Krishna says in the first line of this verse, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. So Vidya, meaning that the sage is endowed with transcendental knowledge, and Vinaya, the sage is gentle and humble in her disposition towards the world around her. So this is the quality that we are missing. We are lacking in knowledge, and we are lacking in having this gentle and humble disposition towards the world around us and towards others. If we were actually humble and actually gentle in our disposition, and if we actually had knowledge, then we would see within ourselves so many shortcomings and so much room for improvement that we would not find so much opportunity for criticizing others. And this we can see even in the pure devotees of Krishna, that they have this humble disposition, and thus, despite their ultimate level of qualifications, they still feel themselves to be very lowly, and they wish good on all others, and they seek the blessings of all others. And there was a very nice quote from Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antyakanda chapter 9, that I came across last night, in which Vrindavan Das Thakur is speaking about the activities of a great devotee. Well, actually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. First of all, I'll say that in regard to the devotee's attitude of humility, one prominent example is Srila Sanatana Goswami, that we can see in his activities when he came to Jagannath Puri, that although he was supremely qualified on the spiritual level, so qualified that he even instructed Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Chaitanya was going to Vrindavan for the first time, or trying to go to Vrindavan, he had thousands and thousands of devotees who were following him and were causing so much commotion everywhere they went. And they came to the place where Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami were living, and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu gave some preliminary instructions to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, and then Sanatana Goswami told Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu that, you know, I don't think it's very good that you're going to Vrindavan with all these thousands of devotees following you. Vrindavan is a very grave place, so someone should go alone or just with a couple people, not with a whole contingent of people. Lord Chaitanya was even at some points in his journey being accompanied by like armies of people. He inspired the kings who he encountered along the way. So Sanatana Goswami was able to even instruct Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And yet we see practically that when Sanatana Goswami came to Jagannath Puri, he was so humble that he wouldn't even go and visit the house that Lord Chaitanya was staying in. And why is this? It's because Sanatana Goswami was thinking that I'm such a fallen and contaminated living entity that the house where Lord Chaitanya is staying, the Gambhira, it is right down the street from the main gate of Lord Jagannath's temple. If you ever go to Jagannath Puri, you'll see that to walk from the from the Simhadvar, the main front gate of Lord Jagannath's temple, to the Gambhira is only a couple minutes walk. So Sanatana Goswami was thinking that I'm such a fallen living entity, and I'm so unqualified and so contaminated, both in terms of my consciousness and also physically. He was feeling himself contaminated due to infections that he had on his skin by Lord Chaitanya's arrangement. He picked up an infection in his skin along the way to Jagannath Puri. He had pus oozing from his skin. And so he thought that the servants of Lord Jagannath, they are constantly coming and going from the Simhadvar of the temple, and they are also constantly walking past the Gambhira. And so if they were to touch my body, then they would become contaminated, and that would be an offense on my part, because they are servants of Lord Jagannath, and according to the rules and regulations of deity worship, one should be very clean in serving the deity, although I'll share with you all a pastime involving an apparent transgression of this in a minute. But one should, generally speaking, be very clean. One shouldn't have blood or pus smeared on one's clothes or one's body when going in front of the deity, what to speak of directly serving the deity. And so Sanatana Goswami was thinking that I would be committing offenses if I were to go to Lord Chaitanya's temple, to Lord Chaitanya's residence, and thus cause the servants of Lord Jagannath to become contaminated by touching me. And Sanatana Goswami was so deeply situated in this humility that even when Lord Chaitanya invited Sanatana Goswami to lunch one day, rather than walking along the main road, which would have been very easy and comfortable and shaded, instead Sanatana Goswami decided that he would walk along the beach. And this was at noon, and if any of you have walked, Sanatana Goswami didn't have shoes, so if any of you have walked barefoot on the beach in the middle of the summer at noon on a hot day, it's very painful. It's actually described that the bottom of Sanatana Goswami's feet, by the time that he reached Lord Chaitanya's residence, his feet were covered in blisters. Lord Chaitanya said, practically you can't even walk anymore because of these blisters on your feet. I mean, just imagine how severely burned he must have been. It's a long walk along the beach from where Sanatana Goswami was staying to the Gambhira. Sanatana Goswami said that actually I didn't even notice that I had these burns and blisters on my feet, nor did I feel very much pain. I was simply so happy to be invited to see you at lunchtime that I didn't even consider or perceive any such pains. So this is the humility of the pure Vaishnava. The pure Vaishnava is never thinking of him or herself as being great, but rather the pure Vaishnava has the proclivity to give all glories and all credit to others. We see this practically in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur during his Vyasa Puja. He was sitting on a nice Vyasasan, being worshipped and glorified by so many hundreds and thousands of his disciples. And what was his expression of his internal mood? He said, just look at me, I'm a ridiculous animal sitting on this throne, being treated like a king, but actually he expressed that he considers all of you disciples, actually you are my masters, and I am your servant. And he said that he considered every single one of his disciples a manifestation of his own spiritual master. So this is the kind of attitude that the pure devotee has. And we see this also expressed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastika. Shikshastika, despite in addition to being instructions about how to chant the holy names, Shikshastika is also an expression of the ecstatic emotions of Srimati Radharani, which Lord Chaitanya was relishing during his nighttime pastimes in the Gambhira. And so, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Lord Chaitanya expressed Trinadapi Sunichena Tador Iva Sahishnuna Amaninamanidena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi, that one who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor but is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. So this came up recently in the disciples retreat that I attended at Gitanagari, hearing from His Holiness Devamrta Maharaj. Someone asked how to deal with it when there are some transgressions in how a Vaishnava may deal with us. We feel offended by the way that a devotee interacts with us. So how to respond to this? And Devamrta Maharaj's answer was that our focus should always be on how can we achieve this point of Kirtaniya Sada Harihi. How can we achieve this point of always chanting the holy names? How can we achieve this point of always remembering Krishna? If we are distracting ourselves by the duplicities of this world, of honor and dishonor, of insult and praise, then it will be impossible for us to actually be fixed in always remembering and chanting the glories of Krishna. So I had actually never heard someone answer this question in this way, but Devamrta Maharaj said that when such things happen to you, not that you should allow yourself to be abused unnecessarily, but you should always have the attitude towards the other devotee who you feel has made some transgression against you of wanting to honor and serve that devotee and not expecting any honor for oneself. Otherwise, Devamrta Maharaj said, and Krishna also says this in the Uddhava Gita, in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, that if we are caught up in this honor and dishonor, then we will find so many reasons to be distracted, and thus we will be blown off course. So Devamrta Maharaj said that always keep this mantra of Trinadapi Sunichena within your heart. Always be remembering this, and always try to remember this in your dealings with devotees. And in this way you can actually attain the goal. So it's not that you are allowing yourself to be stepped on by having this sort of an attitude, but rather you are allowing yourself to be elevated to the highest platform, the ultimate goal of spiritual life, of always remembering and glorifying Krishna. And Krishna, as I said, describes this point in the 11th canto, chapter 28, verses 1 through 5. Krishna says that one should neither praise nor criticize the conditioned nature and activities of other persons. Rather, one should see this world as simply the combination of material nature and the enjoying souls, all based on the one absolute truth. Whoever indulges in praising or criticizing the qualities and behavior of others will quickly become deviated from his own best interest by his entanglement in illusory dualities. Just as the embodied spirit soul loses external consciousness when his senses are overcome by the illusion of dreaming or the death-like state of deep sleep, so a person experiencing material duality must encounter illusion and death. That which is expressed by material words or meditated upon by the material mind is not the ultimate truth. What, therefore, is actually good or bad within this insubstantial world of duality? And how can the extent of such good and bad be measured? Although shadows, echoes, and mirages are only illusory reflections of real things, such reflections cause a semblance of meaningful or comprehensible perception. In the same way, although the identification of the conditioned soul with the material body, mind, and ego is illusory, this identification generates fear within him, even up to the moment of death. So this is our condition as long as we are being caught up in these material dualities, that although these things we get so caught up in within this world are insubstantial in the ultimate scheme of things, we will just become completely carried away by these emotional expressions and emotional experiences and concepts, these illusory speculatory concepts of good and bad. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, he describes it as manorata. This means that the mind is like a chariot that is carrying away the good sense of the living entity. Also, manorata means speculations. So, in other words, that our idea of pleasure and pain within this world and happiness and distress is a product of the speculations of our mind and our senses and our ego and intelligence, contaminated by material nature. So even as devotees, we may often get swept away by this, especially in the beginning of devotional service. We get a little bit of knowledge, just like Śṛṅgi had a little bit of Brahma Tejas. He had a little bit of knowledge of the principles of Dharma. And so due to a relatively small transgression by Maharaja Pariksit, Śṛṅgi became completely carried away, completely lost all sense of what his benefit and the benefit of others was. And so he acted in a harsh and irresponsible way. So as devotees, we may also experience this, that we get a little knowledge of devotional service. We have a little bit of an idea of what devotional service means and a little bit of a sense of being devotees. And then suddenly we find the proclivity to criticize and judge other devotees. And in this way, we end up becoming caught up in seeing the external faults of others rather than seeing the spiritual potential of others. And this is especially detrimental when it comes to our association with advanced devotees. We may see the activities of advanced devotees, which externally may seem to be the same as the activities of a normal person, and then we judge and criticize. Why? That's because as neophytes in the path of devotional service, we have an external vision. This is the definition of a neophyte. The neophyte is only seeing the externals. The neophyte only sees Krishna within the temple in the deity form. The neophyte is not able to see Krishna within the heart of all living entities. And the neophyte only sees the external material bodily covering of other devotees, not able to see the love for Krishna within the heart of the devotee. And so therefore the neophyte makes so many offenses due to this wrong vision of the devotees, and thus has a propensity to commit offenses and make judgments. So Vrindavan Das Thakur gives a solution to this. again in Chaitanya Bhagavat Antyakanda chapter 9, verses 388 to 392, Vrindavan Das Thakur is speaking about how the activities of a pure devotee may sometimes be bewildering. He gives the example of Bhrigu Muni. There's a famous pastime in which Bhrigu Muni wanted to determine who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is it Brahma, is it Shiva, or is it Vishnu? And so he went and insulted all three of them. First with Lord Brahma, he ignored Lord Brahma when he came into the assembly of Lord Brahma. He didn't show proper honor, and Lord Brahma became very angry. And then he went to the abode of Lord Shiva, and he actually started insulting Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva became very angry. And then he went to Vaikuntha, and he actually kicked Lord Narayan. And then what was Lord Narayan's response? He said, please forgive me for my offenses. Your foot must hurt very much having kicked me. So in this way, Bhrigu, he realized that Lord Narayan is the Supreme. And so Vrindavan Das Thakur is posing the question of how can we understand this pastime? Why would this great sage and devotee engage in these activities in the first place of insulting Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and then kicking Vishnu? He said that this was the arrangement of Krishna, that he would engage in such an activity in order to bring about an opportunity for his glorification and for devotional service. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, he explains that sometimes an exalted Vaishnava exhibits the same behavior and characteristics as a materialistic person. The conclusion is that only by the mercy of Krishna can one understand a great Vaishnava. Otherwise, in such intricate situations, one may either be liberated or destroyed. But I have found a wonderful solution to this problem. So what is this wonderful solution? He says, one should always glorify and behave humbly with all. Thinking oneself a fool, one should surrender to Krishna and carefully listen to the words of advanced devotees. Then Lord Krishna will impart one with transcendental intelligence, by which one is completely delivered without hindrance. So if we wish to be completely delivered without hindrance, then we should attempt to take this advice, always glorifying and behaving humbly with all other living entities. Vrindavan Das Thakur doesn't just say all other Vaishnavas, he says all other living entities. And we should think ourselves a fool and think Krishna as being our only shelter, and the words of the advanced devotees our only guide as we are trying to move forward in spiritual life. And if we do this, then we can actually reach Krishna. So if we situate ourselves in this understanding, then we can, by the strength of this understanding, be tolerant of the ways that we may step on each other's feet. And it is the nature of this world, and even in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, that people step on each other's feet. For instance, there was one pastime in which I believe it was a servant of Maharaj Prataparudra was asking Srivas to move aside a little bit so that he could see Lord Chaitanya ecstatically dancing. And Srivas Thakur was so enwrapped in his own ecstatic experience of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu that he didn't understand, why is this devotee, keep bugging me. And so Srivas Thakur actually slapped this devotee in the face. And which, not recommended. But in ecstatic love, sometimes some of the devotees do that. We see this happen a couple times in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also in Chaitanya Bhagavatam. I'll share a story of that. And so the devotee was at first very angry and was about to retaliate for being slapped by Srivas Thakur. And the Maharaj Pariksit said, no, you just got like so much mercy being slapped by this pure devotee who's in ecstasy. You should be thankful for this. And so a similar, semi-similar pastime comes up in the pastimes of the great devotee Pundarika Vidyanidhi. He was the spiritual master of Gadadhara Pandit. And Pundarika Vidyanidhi was a very intimate friend of Svarup Damodar, one of the most intimate associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Bhagavatam describes how Svarup Damodar and Pundarika Vidyanidhi would come together and just become completely carried away in glorifying Krishna together and in chanting Hare Krishna together. And so one day, Svarup Damodar and Pundarika Vidyanidhi together went to the temple of Lord Jagannatha to see a festival called Odana Shashti. And the tradition in Jagannath Puri is that during Odana Shashti, this is the 6th day of the first month of winter, Lord Jagannatha is offered many different cloths, but whereas normally cloths that you offer to the deity should be washed, and the starch should be washed out of the cloth in the process of making these cloths, I guess they starch them. And so you're supposed to wash it generally before you put it on Lord Jagannath or on the deity. But during Odana Shasti, they dress the Lord Jagannath without washing the cloth first. So Pundarika Vidyanidhi was watching this, and he started to become agitated in his mind, and he was thinking, why is it that they don't wash the cloths? Haven't they read Shastra before? It says in Shastra that you should wash the cloth before offering it to the deity. How have these servants of Lord Jagannath become so illusioned? And so he was criticizing in his mind like this. And then after the festival was over, he was walking down the street with Svarup Damodar, and he started revealing his mind to Svarup Damodar. And he was saying, how is this? And Svarup Damodar said, well, Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he wants to wear unwashed cloth, then who can stop him from this? And who can criticize him? Said Krishna and Lord Jagannath are completely pure, and their activities are completely pure. So if he wants to wear unclean cloth, then that is simply an exhibition of Krishna's pure pastimes. And Pundarika Vidyanidhi was saying, okay, well, sure, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the servants of Lord Jagannath are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so it's the duty of the servants of Lord Jagannath to discriminate between cleanliness and uncleanliness in executing their service to Lord Jagannath. And so there was no resolution to this in his conversation with Svarup Damodar. And so Pundarika Vidyanidhi went to sleep contemplating this. And then he had a dream where Lord Jagannath and Lord Baladev came to him, and they started slapping him. And actually it's described that they slapped him and punched him so much that his face became swollen, and there were like marks of Lord Jagannath's fingers on his cheeks. I don't know if any of you have seen, there's like these competitions these days where people like slap each other, and I don't know how that works. Avoid looking at that. It's very gruesome, but we can get perhaps some idea of the condition of Pundarika Vidyanidhi. You know, the people who engage in these competitions, their face just becomes completely swollen and red. And so Pundarika Vidyanidhi was experiencing this from Lord Jagannath and Lord Baladev. And Lord Jagannath and Baladev were saying, how can you criticize my servants? He said, don't you think that if I didn't want them to offer starched cloth to me, that I would make an arrangement for them to not do that? He said, Lord Jagannath said, I established this pastime, this festival of them offering this starched cloth. So who are you to criticize this? You just show up in Jagannath Puri and you start criticizing my servants? And so then Pundarika Vidyanidhi was very apologetic, and he was praying for forgiveness from Lord Jagannath. And then when he woke up, he actually saw that his face was actually swollen. It wasn't just a dream. And he had the marks of Lord Jagannath's fingers on his cheeks. And so later that day, Pundarika Vidyanidhi didn't leave his residence. And so Svarup Damodar came looking for him, thinking, oh, this is unusual that Pundarik has stayed in his residence instead of coming out to associate with all of us. And then he saw the swollen condition of Pundarika Vidyanidhi's face, and, oh, what happened to you? Did you get hurt? And Pundarika Vidyanidhi said, no, I've gotten the greatest mercy of being chastised by Lord Jagannath. And then he explained the whole thing that had happened. So this is an arranged pastime that Pundarika Vidyanidhi would engage in this kind of criticism and receive this punishment from Lord Jagannath. And so therefore, we shouldn't criticize Pundarika Vidyanidhi, fall into the same trap that Pundarika Vidyanidhi apparently did by Krishna's arrangement. But we should appreciate this point that the pastime is illustrating of always glorifying and avoiding criticism of Krishna's intimate devotees, and also Krishna's devotees in general. If we're not in a position to give instruction, that the person actually submits to us that they wish to, instruction from us, then generally it's not necessary that we give instruction. And so I thought I would share one more section from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which illustrates this point of the internal mood of the devotee in love for Krishna versus the external activities. And this comes in the activities of a great devotee named Damayati. She was the sister of Raghava Pandit, one of the most intimate associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Raghava Pandit was coming to Jagannath Puri, and his sister Damayati had to stay in Navadvip, and so she made bags full of all kinds of foods to give to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And so we get a description of what these foods were. This is Antya-lila chapter 10. It says, Damayati made varieties of unparalleled food just suitable for Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu to eat. The Lord ate it continually for 1 year. These are the names of some of the pickles and condiments in the bags of Raghava Pandit. Amra Kashandi, Ada Kashandi, Jala Kashandi, Nebhu Ada, Amra Koli, Amsi, Ama Kanda, Tailamra, and Ama Satta. With great affection, Damayanti also made dried bitter vegetables into a powder. This is called Sukuta. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj says, do not neglect Sukuta because it is a bitter preparation. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu derived more happiness from eating this Sukuta than from drinking Panchamrita, a preparation of milk, sugar, ghee, honey, and yogurt. So what is this Sukuta? Nowadays, if you get Sukuta, it's soup that's made from a combination of bitter leaves and vegetables, and then other vegetables and milk. So the other vegetables and the milk kind of mellow out the bitterness of the bitter leaves and vegetables in the soup. But in the time of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, in the case of what Damayati made, this Sukuta was, they would just dry bitter leaves like neem leaves and bitter vegetables like bitter melon. They would dry it and then make it into a powder. And then at the beginning of a meal, it's prescribed in Ayurveda that you should take this Sukuta and you mix it with a little ghee or a little mustard seed oil. And then you have that with a little rice. And it's very, very bitter. And so one might think that why would someone offer such a thing to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu? You know, it wasn't even like she cooked something for him. It's just these bitter leaves dried and made into a powder. But Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu accepted this with great pleasure. And so why is this? It's because since Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he extracts the purpose from everything. He accepted Damayati's affection for him, and therefore he derived great pleasure even from the dried bitter leaves of Sukuta and from Kashandi, a sour condiment. Because of her natural love for Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Damayati considered the Lord an ordinary human being. Therefore, she thought that he would become sick by overeating, and there would be mucus within his abdomen. Because of sincere affection, she thought that eating the Sukuta would cure the Lord's disease. Considering these affectionate thoughts of Damayati, the Lord was very pleased. And then there's a quote. Says, a dear lover strung a garland and placed it on the shoulders of his beloved in the presence of her co-wives. She was very beautiful, yet although the garland was tainted with mud, she did not reject it, for its value lay not in material things, but in love. So this is a summary of pure devotional service. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, they are not so concerned about the external arrangement, but rather they are concerned about the internal expression of love. So to the extent that we have not developed this pure love of Krishna and thus cannot see it in others, we should be very careful in our dealings with other devotees and be very careful to be humble and not engage in irrational behavior like Śṛṅgi. You know, go on Facebook and say so many nasty things about other devotees. It seems to be a great ISKCON pastime, unfortunately. So we should be very careful of this and always try to glorify the devotees. And if we can't glorify a particular devotee or get along with them, then we can simply offer obeisances from a distance and still try to find some positive thing that we can glorify in that devotee. The devotee sees only the good in the aspiring devotee and tries to fan that spark, as Vaishesha Prabhu likes to talk about. So we should try to take up this attitude, and thus we can always be situated in devotional service and remembrance of Krishna. So if there are any questions or comments or complaints, I will take them.
I always regret not bringing my notebook to your class because there's so much nectar, and you take us on all these different avenues. Like we're in the story, and then like we're out, but we're in, and it's all connected. But there's so much depth and so many layers. Like I always call you're the queen of Krishna Katha. So thank you so much for another great class, and I loved the visuals of at the end the food, like the foods, and there was something else. I didn't know about the cloth. So it's the first week of winter, and it's only to Lord Jagannath. It's unstarched, unwashed.
No, it is starched. They didn't wash the starch out. Yeah.
And how many? Is there a number of cloths or types?
It described in Chaitanya Bhagavat that they were offering cloths all day to him. So it must have been a lot of them.
In between his 52
Yeah.
times of eating a day, he's being offered various cloths.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Anything else? Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.